welcome. This is one of the best sessions you're going to attend this year because you're going to be participating. So not only do we have some distinguished panelists, but we also want to hear from you on some of your experiences and challenges. So the hope is that at the end of this, we all will have something to take away where we can improve our mentor-mentee relationships, because it's very critical right now that we get more talent and the right talent and nurture the right talent as we improve the construction industry. Now, this is very informal. It's going to be conversational. And I'm sitting out here turning these pages with one finger. Can you see the screen okay? Some of the preliminaries to get it out of the way here. We do want to acknowledge our sponsors. We have some excellent sponsors that you can see. You might see your company up here represented. And we definitely appreciate that for all that you do. And I'm not going to read every name, make a mental picture. All right. Lane Construction Institute, Northern California chapter. There's a LinkedIn page that we have. A lot of contents there, late-breaking content. So if you want to know what's going on, get some of the insights, that's the go-to place. And at the end of the session, we will have a plus delta. So we want to hear from you what went well and what we can do to improve in the future. Now, I will show this again later at the end, so you don't have to get it now, but just want to give you a heads up that that's coming. You can become a sponsor. It's $2,000 a year. And our sponsors receive complimentary registrations to our NorCal events, Northern California events. And then they're featured on all of the invitations, event invitations, and some of the other marketing materials. So there's a lot that you get for that, as well as benefiting the organization. We have some upcoming events. This is the one you're in now, the mentor-mentee session. Next week, we will have an IPD draft. That's what it's called? IPD draft? That'll be a Genentech. That's a weird name.
It's not the name of the session. It's
That's not the name of the
teams.
session.
What's the one? It's
Yeah.
the All-Star teams. It's a. I think it's
Check your email. It's coming.
creating the best teams.
Bringing the best teams. There we go.
Creating the best teams down at Genentech.
It will be at Genentech, and that will be a well-attended session as well. We also have some trainings, but we have some TBD. So as that information becomes solidified, we will make that available to you. And get ready for Congress. This is Chicago. The design engineering. This is design. Wait a minute.
Design awards.
Yeah, the design awards. Yes. So if you have something you'd like to submit, there's information. Nominations are now open. So we invite you to share your great projects that you're working on.
Yeah, those will be announced at Congress.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're due by the 26th.
They're due next week.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're due
There's
by.
a whole evaluation that has to go through it.
So it's due by May 1st? No, that's not
No,
right.
26th.
That's not right.
26th.
26th, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, submissions are due by June 26th. And it's bigger in Texas. Don't mess with Texas. I used to live there a couple years. But Arlington, Texas, October 20th through 24th. You want to be there. Registration opens this. Is it open already?
It's open today.
It's open. Registration is open. So be the first to sign up.
Better discount the earlier you register.
Yes. And now what you've all been waiting for is, why are we here? Little overview of the session today. We're going to have our distinguished panelists here. We will have a breakout session where we want to hear from you. We will have some questions that we want you to answer. There will be about 8 breakouts, and there's a number sprinkled throughout this foyer. There's a conference room around the corner to the left and a few to the right. And at that time, we will disperse you to those groups, whether I count you off. Are you all sitting together in the same company?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Count them off.
Okay,
I'll
we
do
might
7.
count you off and just send you to 7 different
Seven,
groups.
yeah.
Yes, we'll do it old school in a way. And then we'll bring you back and we will hear from each of you what you came up with. And then we'll have a little last minute dialogue and insights from our panel. Okay? And then we'll end with the plus delta. But the thing is that you are going to make this a success. In front of you, we have 8, I said distinguished a couple of times, but we have 4 mentor-mentee pairs that will share their success, and then some of the trials, maybe things that didn't go so well. And it's going to be informal, free-flowing. I'm going to pose some questions, and there may be questions that you may have as we enter into this dialogue. But hopefully, you'll each have something to take away that you can use tomorrow, right? To implement with those that you're mentoring, or those that you wish your mentor was here. You know, those of you. We want to make sure that we have something of value for you to take away. All right? So, to kick it off, I'm going to have each mentor-mentee pair introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about how they entered into their mentor relationship. Just real brief. This is just a start. So we can start with, we'll start with Karen and Misty.
Sure. I'm Misty Hogue. I work for the Bolt Company. I'm currently on the HBW Tri-Venture project at UCSF. And I met Karen about around 9-10 years ago, starting at the Sutter Vanessa Geary campus. Yeah.
So I'm Karen Conrad. I am a project executive with Herrera Builders. And as Misty said, we met 9 years ago when she joined a team down on a large project in San Francisco. And we started together. She was my employee, started in the industry with me in risk management. And, really over the years has just grown to take over doing the project role that I had many years ago and leading a very large project and all the risk management of that project. And she now does that all on her own and reaches out sometimes for some advice and discussions, but that's really, we've just grown together for 9 years and both have benefited through that relationship, so.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go next. If you're wondering who the architects are, we went black and white for our photos. I'm Justin Wise. I'm a senior principal and healthcare architect for Stantec. I also serve as an integrated champion and an instructor with LCI, which is awesome. And then work with Stan Chu and co-lead Design Forum. So that's for design phase. It's not just for designers. So if you're operating the design phase, come to Chicago. I interviewed this guy, let's see, like a year and a half ago when I was in LA, right after I led a integration event for a large project. And so really liked some of the things I heard from him. We hired him immediately and put him to task as a project manager and put him into deep water on a bunch of different validation projects running through IFOA. And so it's been a pleasure working with Alex. Alex, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm working, of course, with Justin, my executive. I'm a project manager, and exactly what Justin said. I got interviewed. He talked about the IPD, lean construction, and then during the process, it's very interesting because I come from a design build, more traditional way, and there are aspects right there in lean that. It's like, this is a completely different world. I'm on my journey, and Justin has been there, and moving forward.
Thank you.
Nice. Cool. Jordan, structural designer with Bueller Engineering. Larry was my PM on a very small Sutter project about 3 years ago now. Little 50,000 square foot TI build out for the Sutter facility in Roseville. And we've been working on projects together ever since.
Absolutely. I'm Larry Summerfield. I'm been a principal with Bueller for 37 years. And, Jordan and I got involved with that project that he mentioned and the one that new MOB out at Sutter's out at Folsom. And we've had a great opportunity on those projects to learn and to teach and to make it all better.
And my name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez. I work for the Bull Company as a Project Delivery Services Director, and I work with a lot of people in the room, even here today, so it's good to see a bunch of friendly faces. I'll let Guillermo tell about the story of how we met. It was so storybook fairy tale.
Here we go.
But I also volunteer a lot with LCI, and thank you, like Jeff said, for everyone for coming. This is Jeff's brainchild, and I thought it was a great idea. I voluntold my mentee, and let's see what he says.
That's true. He actually took me that picture once he told me that I was coming here. He didn't ask. So my name is Guillermo Prado Luján. I met Felipe from his podcast, actually. He was interviewing my professor at that time from Berkeley, Iris Tomaline. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when you interviewed her. I was looking for some initiatives to do research with her. And after I watched that podcast, I was able to provide more research ideas to Iris. That's how I talked to him. And 2 years after that, I started working for the Bull Company. So we've been involved in the UCSF HEH project. I work with Missy as well there. So it's been a pleasure and a lot of fun stuff happening since that time.
Thank you.
Did he pay you to name drop the podcast?
Half a meal.
He hasn't named it yet, but I'll wait to see if he actually names it.
And I'm Jeff Long, and I have the honor of being able to moderate this session and try to keep Felipe under control. So, all right, so our introductions, thank you for that, panelists. And I'm going to pose a few questions, and I'm going to direct it at some of the panelists, and some of you might have something to say about that same particular question, and I'm going to try to hold us to time, because there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say about this. And so as we look at your mentor-mentee relationship, and I'd like to start with this one with Larry Jordan. Larry, what were your expectations going into it? We all hear about mentorship, mentoring, being a mentor. When you entered into that relationship, what were your expectations?
This is where I unnecessarily cut Jordan off and start talking. I would say that my expectations was that I would work myself out of a job, basically. That I would create this army of people just like me, because we needed more people to get the work done. So, that was my initial understanding of what the process would be. But over time I've learned that there's just one size doesn't fit all. Everybody's got their own set of passions and their own set of skill sets and where they want to go with their career. And and I learned that what I see my job as being taking a mentee's skill sets, their passions, their interests, their dreams and skill sets, and what actually makes money, if you follow me, and blend them together and find a way for them to take what they want to do with their lives and get the resources behind them to actually get it done. Mm-hmm. If it looks like me, great. If it doesn't look like me, it's still great.
Mm-hmm. Cool, nice. Yeah, from my perspective, I was fresh out of college, and so I thought I was going to kick butt right away, and then quickly got humbled and learned that the industry's pretty difficult and there's still a lot to learn. So Larry was right there to kind of support me in my learning experience, and my expectations for myself quickly became to learn as much as I could from him. He's both very technically advanced in the engineering side of things, but he's also really, really good at the cross-disciplinary kind of talking and coordination and doing a lot more than just engineering. And so I saw that, and I guess my expectations were to continue having this relationship and to continue to learn not just the engineering side, but also the more advanced, nuanced side of lean.
Yeah. What about Guillermo? What about you? What are your expectations? I know, podcast, right? I know you went to the podcaster, but what were your expectations going into it? What did you expect to get out of this relationship?
I always look for using research-driven outcomes to being implemented into projects. I know that construction is very well recognized for practicality or not going too much into what the books say. But at the same time, I was trying to realize that not everything that we read on the book is actually true. So having that relationship with Felipe and what he's, having seen him interviewing a professor at Berkeley in that time, it was a different, fresher perspective for what I've seen so far. So that's what's my expectation, that he was open to discuss some papers, for instance, how to implement some things into these construction projects. Not only about, I'm just going to use this term because it's what everybody uses here, the last planner system. There are more things to just the last planner systems in the lean literature. So having that openness to try new things is what I was expecting. And it's been going great so far.
And we even had a session because at the time that I started mentoring Guillermo when he came to work for us, and we had conversations even before that, a lot of Zoom calls late at night and at different time zones and outside of work hours because he could never contact me during waking hours.
That's true.
For me, which is really good because I told Guillermo, I see you have a passion for research, but what we get measured at on our projects is what we actually put in place. So that's connecting, like building things. Experimentation is good, research is okay, and industry has changed sometimes by research. Nobody will give it credit or admit it. So I said we want to be very experiment focused, and I was driving experimentation with him, and he thought he was here, and I said, you might be here, but we'll find out. I said, we'll test. And Guillermo was very open and entered into the relationship, even though I was a supervisor, as a mentee, which is a little bit different than me just approving his time. The responsibility for him was actually higher because he wanted to get coached up and move up a level. And we were talking about his compass and being driven just on the way here today.
Now, you mentioned the word coached up, right? That's kind of the mentor talking about the mentee's projection. But what about mentors? What's something that your mentee has taught you? And so I like Karen, because it's not just,
back to the last question, I believed in and worked with Misty, was very protective to make sure she didn't try to do too much at once and learn to grow in the industry. But I learned very quickly and knew that she would do more than I could ever do, but she'd also do it better. She did it different than me. She's a very different person than I am. I'm much more in your face, what the heck, why are you doing this like this again? And Misty's much more calm and nurturing of people, and the results that she got from those conversations, even early on when she didn't always know the answers, brought a lot more out of people to get the support and to get the information than I ever could have done. So very quickly I had to learn, and it was a hard lesson, right? That there is a better way, and I've learned a lot in how I have to step back, and every once in a while I do that. I'm like, okay, how would Misty ask this question, right? Not so much about, like in the past, she's like, well, I wonder how Karen would answer, and she'd call up and say, how would you answer this? And now I do exactly that sometimes. I catch myself feeling myself being a little stubborn or a little me and say, well, how would Misty do this? Because it will probably come across very different and surprise the people I'm working with that I am doing that in a different way. So I really learned a lot from her, and I probably do what she used to do a lot, is think about how I would answer. So.
Good. Justin, what about you? What have you learned from Alex?
Yeah, so Alex has an excitement that he's just excited about things in general. Put him on a project, he's excited about that. Give him something code challenging, he gets even more excited. And that level of excitement, it's enthusiastic to me because at a certain point, sometimes you're not necessarily doing all the project related things anymore. you're not doing what you got into the industry to do, as an example. And so, being able to keep yourself going, that fresh perspective and excitement and that energy that Alex brings in when I'm working with him on projects, not only does it enthuse the whole team that he's working with, but it enthuses me. And the other thing I've really appreciated is his humility. He's quick to point out when he doesn't know something, and he's a high-level learner. His first experience this year for Design Forum, he was blowing my phone up and trying to grab me afterwards, and at night, kind of like Felipe, being like, "What were all these things? I need to know now. I need to apply this." So that engagingness, that hunger, it really helps me check myself too. That it's always important to still be enthusiastic, no matter what you're doing. Your energy is felt, especially in a leadership role, but it's felt in any role. And Alex operating that project management role, it's felt across that energy and that humility.
If I could tack on to that, I was just thinking about one thing that Jordan's really into is coding, computer program. I know almost nothing about it, and that's something, there's always going to be something you can learn from somebody younger than you just because of the fact that they've got different passions. And so I think that there's always going to be ways for people to learn back and forth from each other, especially. We all have different passions, different experiences.
Felipe, did you learn anything from?
I did. Guillermo early on said, I'm going to show you the value of research and give you some papers that challenge your thinking. Because when you talk as much as I do, people get a sense of like what you like and what you don't like. We ended up having some very long conversations on research papers. Like, he gave me this, and he printed it out. He made it easy for me to do it with him. He gave me a 15-page paper, and we ended up talking for about 3 hours, and we only got to page 3. So it was very, very spirited, but it opened my eyes, and I even admitted to him today that I might be wrong about some of the research, which
That's
is nice.
recorded, right?
Yeah. For the record. For the record, I might have learned something. That's been very good because I'm not the only one on this panel that gets trapped in their own way of thinking.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have somebody that you have a relationship with to challenge you because it makes it's a safe space where we can talk freely about very controversial topics, construction topics.
I taught you some Spanish words.
It's taught me a lot of curse words.
Okay, so that's good. That means that mentors are teachable, right? They can learn some things. Okay, that's good. So what about the mentees? What is something that your mentor has helped you with? Misty.
One thing or some things, or many things. I think Karen being just like the strong person that she is, and me being like just this environment alone, I'm like petrified.
This is part of her mentorship. Being here and
Yeah, and I know I've been a little backwards when I first started. I think that was probably due to inexperience and just lack of confidence. But Karen has always been very confident, and she's allowed me to glean that from her. And so I think that has been a huge part of me growing, is just to, as I learn, just to kind of walk in that new confidence. Because people will listen to you a lot more when you display that confidence, and especially in a role that I have where I've the ability to kick people off site, you kind of need that footing. So I'm really thankful for that opportunity. Yeah.
Jordan, what did you learn?
Yeah, a lot. Like I said earlier, coming fresh out of college, there was a lot to learn just in general. I think one thing that stands out is kind of just him helping me speak up for myself when it comes to either me needing help on a technical aspect of something, or like scheduling, for example, when I tend to be a yes type of guy, just yes, I'll take it on, yes, I'll take it on. And then before I know it, I'm working a lot. And so he started speaking up for me before I spoke up for myself. And then I realized that our company is able to kind of redistribute the work, and it becomes more efficient and better for everybody. And so he kind of taught me that speaking up is a benefit to everybody. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to look a quick check. Can you hear us okay in the back?
Speak up.
A little bit more?
A little louder.
Okay.
Okay.
Use your outdoor voice.
Okay.
Got it.
All right, Alex.
Yeah.
What's something that Justin has helped you with?
Oh, with Justin, Justin, he did say about my enthusiasm. Justin compliments what I have. I'm lucky to have that because Justin is a very good storyteller. That's what he's telling me. Alex, stop looking down at the weeds. Come up the tree. Hover up and take a look at everything. Look at it at a high level, and I really like that aspect, especially as a project manager, because I need to learn how to tell a story, bring in the client, and then still land that objective. So Justin has been teaching me that, and inclusive of that, we always have our talks. You can bump into Justin like in the corridor, and then he's pretty approachable. And then we also have our weekly talks as well. And during that weekly talks, I learn more. Justin has been expressive about inclusivity, a safe environment, which I really like, especially in our business, where everything needs to be completed, due dates, budget, client demands, and yeah, that's so far has been my journey. Then that's what I've been getting from Justin, and it's been really good. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Guillermo,
I know a lot of
anything
people-
Felipe has helped you with?
Oh, many things actually. As you said, the marketing part of what I've learned since watching his podcast was one thing, as most of you already
Yeah,
said
he's
as
not
well.
paying you to say that.
I didn't say the name yet.
Yeah, just to be clear, he's unpaid. This is all free.
No, and I keep saying that because without having watched that podcast, I wouldn't be here, to be honest. At the same time, it's about making sure that you tell the other people that are working with you what you're doing. Be accountable for what you're doing is another thing that I realize is very important. Public projects might have that very specific requirements sometimes compared to private projects. And at the same time, looking at the business case of whatever I'm doing is another thing that I hadn't realized that it was so important until I ended up on this project with Bolt. I was mostly focused on research, how to implement these things, or that, how to question these assumptions. But that comes along with the business case that will make those assumptions, those testing and experiments, being able to have profit outcomes for the project and for the companies.
Okay, good, thanks. So I heard about mentorship, building a safe zone. I think Alex had talked about that kind of an environment. When you think about mentor-mentee relationship, the T word is an important word, trust, right? To really help you grow and to develop. And so this is a toss-up, so anybody can grab this one though. So how do you build trust in a mentor-mentee relationship?
Well, I think one good way is to get involved with what they're actually doing. If they're designing something, get involved with it so that you can have enough conversations where that they can actually, understand, who you are as a person. You can't just come up and talk to them once a day or something, or look over their shoulder and say, "What are you doing today?" It's got to find some way to get to share the work and to be in their business with them. So you've got a reason a reason to help them and for them to help you. Make yourself vulnerable is another way of what I'm trying to get at. Is if you don't try to be the boss, but try to let them know that you're an approachable person, that you're vulnerable. I make mistakes, say little things like, "Boy, once you get me talking, you're never gonna hear me shut up. You're probably gonna wish you didn't ask that question or anything like that. But what it does is it makes you a person, and not the boss. So I like that part of trust.
Yeah, and on that note, there was an instance where I was struggling with the design of a certain member of a structure, and I went to Larry and asked for help, and he explained it to me very nicely. And then I went to go design it again, and I was like, oh no, the numbers still aren't making sense. So I went back to him again, and he very kindly explained it to me again. And I think that, allowed vulnerability, because I was partly ashamed, like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take the time to ask this again. And so him being very kind about it, even the second time around, built a lot of trust.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, it's going to be worse. I guarantee you.
I think for me, for trust, I think for me, the one that built the environment of trust was when the leadership, and in this case, of course, it's me and Justin, understand that failures can happen. And with that failure, when the leadership provides you guidance out of that, or discussing about that, and he gives you an idea that failure also means there's reprieve. Failure also means that it's not the thing that will define you. Failure means how do you move forward. So if a leadership can openly say that, that's a portion that can build trust.
Yeah, I think along with that, it's just it's important to mention that it's okay to fail. Now you don't want to have large, massive failures. This is not a coachable moment. That's probably a career-defining moment. We're talking about a series of small failures, and the important thing here is that leaders aren't perfect. We're just like anybody, except we're in a leadership role. I did a Hot Ones challenge just a few weeks ago where we ate spicy wings and answered spicy questions. And one of those was just, what's kind of the biggest thing you didn't really feel like you would have being a leader? And the answer was like, I thought I would have all the answers. This was one of the persons. And I think we were on like 100,000 or million Scoville at that point. So she's gasping for air as she's saying this. But I thought I'd have all the answers. I thought when I got to this role as kind of this building's leader, operating person, I know everything, and I wake up every day and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything, And this concept of like almost imposter syndrome, am I good enough, every single day. I think it's important in a leadership role to be transparent and say that we all deal with that from time to time, and we all make mistakes. I've built a career out of tiny failures, and when you look at it from kind of a continuous improvement standpoint and learning, these are life lessons that they're repeatable. It puts me in a position where I can actually give some practical guidance, right? So I think that's important.
Anyone else on the trust topic?
We had the style of, I told Guillermo, I said, I'm the type of person that just gives trust until betrayed. And even if you betray it, I'll forgive it and we'll try again, because the work we do is so hard and so complicated. It's not a simple black and white. Like, I'm gonna just give you the benefit of the doubt for intentions, but it's gonna go two ways, and we're gonna see character and competence in action. So we had a real simple example, Jeff, where they were gonna run a daily stand-up meeting, which is 15 minutes long, and most of you know what it's in a good stand-up, and Guillermo's like, I can run a meeting, you don't have to explain to me how to run a meeting. I was like, well, you don't run the meeting the way I want you to run it. And I was like, let me just give you some expectations, and like, you're gonna be running this meeting with a team of people that don't know who you are, that don't like you, so you gotta be prepared, and we'll debrief after. And so they ran a 15-minute meeting, Guillermo was co-leading the meeting. And then afterwards, we had a 45-minute debrief. And it was very intense. And I said, I'm just gonna give you feedback if it's okay. And I asked your permission. I said, is it okay to give you feedback, what I saw, the things that you might not have noticed? And afterwards, he realized there's a lot more to running a meeting than just showing up when it's time to start. And it was a good example of that. It was a difficult conversation. It was intense at times because I'm very strong opinionated. We lined out what it should be like, what it turned out to be, and there was a gap. And I said, those gaps are the things that I, as your mentor, are gonna give you opportunities so that you can close those gaps in, and you're gonna get more repetition and practice. And so these are so good that you actually draw people in instead of expulging people.
Yeah, and on top of that, I believe that the openness to say no is something that I really appreciated at that time, because I thought it was always about saying yes to whatever you're asked to do. But if you can do it, and that's what Felipe mentioned, if you can say no, just say no and that's it. So we'll find a different way. If this time doesn't work for you, say no, we'll find a different time. It's totally okay, and those two words of transparency and being direct, I think, are very aligned to how I usually work. So having that openness to work in that sense is what allowed me to have trust in the whole system that we were creating.
Oh, I like that, what you said about giving trust away. A lot of times people say, well, you gotta earn my trust. Well, if you give it away to start with, then it makes them easier to trust you. I mean, yeah, you know.
That's like starting out at the beginning of a project, right?
Yeah.
Our conditions of satisfaction.
You're here, you're good, we know you're good. You got my trust to start with. It's yours to lose.
I think the second part of that where you said that even if I give you my trust and you betray it, I'm willing to trust you again, that part was really important. Sorry.
No.
So good. And a lot of people don't believe that.
Yeah.
And I had to demonstrate it a couple times with him, and I said, I'm gonna give you feedback from the team, and we'll be open, and if you step on a landmine, I'm gonna keep you standing on it so you don't blow your leg off. And like, that just takes repetition, because that's not normal, what we're used to. I didn't grow up that way. Mentors that I had earlier in the industry were more like what Larry was describing, like, you break my trust once, you're dead to me. And we know, everyone in this room knows somebody who's in the industry like that right now. They're still here. And some people are like that. That's a different style.
I think that trust goes both ways, and Misty can talk about if she trusts me, but you know, I think I tried to, through our relationship, earn her trust by not having given too much, not pushing too hard, but pushing enough. Give the opportunity to say, I'm not ready to do that. I would rather watch you do it and learn a little more. But then at a certain point, push that, okay, I think you're ready. But I also needed to trust Misty that when she was out there on her own doing something, that she didn't hesitate 1 second to call and ask or to get advice. And she had to trust that I would be there no matter when she was calling and when she was asking. And I would be there and not judge and be there and so that relationship really of trust had to go both ways all the time to make sure that we were getting the most out of what we wanted to help each other with and how we wanted to grow together. From
and I would say that part of what helped establish me trusting Karen was that from the very beginning it was, I know we've all heard it before, but it was like there are no stupid questions, you know, and coming in to work with her, I had never had any previous construction experience, so it was kind of like having to learn a whole entire new language, you know, so it's like, what does this mean, what does that mean, and I'm sorry I don't know this already, but can you explain this to me, can you explain it to me again, because I still don't get it,
like I
you
said,
know?
Stop saying you're sorry.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer, it'd be wrong if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
sometimes it's asking the same question maybe a different way because I don't exactly know what I don't know. So, you know, and she always just provided that space. It was a safe space and so, you know.
Phew, I was afraid she'd say she didn't trust me.
It's funny, just to tap one more on that. Sometimes trust is difficult to give, and sometimes it's not just, you know, am I gonna let you do this work? It's, can I shut up?
Yeah.
and let you talk. I mean, I'm in a room full of people that are extremely important to my company, to my career, and I have to stop talking so that he can start talking. Because you have to practice
Yeah.
what you learn. So if I don't stop talking, then you can't practice it.
So it's like
And
that.
that's a trust that's tough sometimes.
That's good. That's good. And I kind of heard that whole transfer. It's like, and I do, we do, you do. It's kind of where you're leading, and then now let's lead together. Let's work together. Now you got it, right? And I like that part where you mentioned about decreasing, like mentor role, right? Decreasing and then showing humility. I heard that. Vulnerability, very
You
strong.
can feel left out after a while. You're not needed anymore.
Right.
That's when you win. That's when you
She's-
win.
That's right.
Cheers.
That I know I've done right. I've done what I wanted to do or what I do, but she doesn't need me to do the $3 billion risk management job, right? I'm like, whoa, and that's great. I'm really proud of her, but after a while, it's like, I don't need, they don't need me to do that anymore.
Go on vacation.
You have to get over it. Yeah.
Actually though, that's
That's a good one.
I'd say from a mentor perspective, that is one of the hardest things to actually do correctly once you get to that point where they're operating, they have autonomy, you're starting to be less of a voice in the room, okay, they got it. And then that's the trickiest part as a mentor, because you don't want to just drop out because it's going well at this moment. Well, there's so many different moments in what we do, and all of them are fairly different, and all of them are complex. And if you're not still there, that's the tricky part, in my opinion. You have to be there enough where you're not taking over, because then there's no learning. You're in a way where they're out there, but they're not like drowning in the ocean. You still gotta be there, and you gotta pace that, and that's the challenge because every project's different. So I find at that point I'm actually more involved mentally, because I'm making those judgment calls so much of like, this is when I'm backing off. Okay, it's not going well. I gave it 20 minutes. It's still, nothing has happened. I probably need to step in, right? And it's always welcome to just say, hey, you got this, and I'm gonna be right there. And then if you need me, Alex, you can just say, Justin, what do you think about that? And I know that's a prompt. If I'm waiting my 20 minutes patiently, oh, he's prompting me right now. Okay, I'll jump in. But I think that's the trickiest part from a mentor when you get it to that level.
I also think that's the time we have to realize maybe they need a different mentor. Maybe I'm not the right mentor for Misty anymore because she's gone to that level and is doing something different than I've ever done. And I can be there for some parts of that, but maybe it's time, and I failed at doing that for Misty, right? Who is the right mentor for Misty now? And we haven't had that conversation, right? And having to think about all this, I thought about that. Maybe there is the need for her growth to have somebody different be a mentor and to be more engaged in that relationship. And it doesn't mean I can't be there to do some of it, but there comes a time when she's outgrown me as a mentor.
That's an interesting concept. I like track and field, right? And I like the relay. And what you just described
hand it
is
off.
that, right? You hand it off so you can get to the end goal. You can only take it so far, right?
Yeah.
But there might be someone else.
And I'll be at the end to cheer when she gets there.
Right.
But I can't give as much as maybe I need to anymore. Or she needs, right?
Because you're still in the relay team, so you all get
You're
a gold
still
medal.
there, you all
right?
get the gold medal.
Right.
Yeah.
Thinking of this is good. A moment that helped really define your relationship. What can you think of something specific, like some moment that really solidified that mentor-mentee relationship?
I can start talking about once when Felipe was very convinced that something might be a certain way, providing an alternative and demonstrating that it can be perceived as an alternative. And he says, yes, this might work, and then yes, this works better. Or no, you're right, in a certain meeting with more people about their perception of other ones, like really having a different perspective with respect feedback. I think having Felipe accepting that type of feedback was something that, yes, this is good, I can keep building on this trust relationship more. And having him asking for research was just new to me at that time because previous bosses that I had, they were never asking for research in an industry-based type of role. So that's something that really made me realize that this is something that I can build more in the way that I want to be built, which is this relationship, this combination of research in the industry.
And for me, Guillermo came to me one day, and he did this on his own. He contacted Human Resources, and he got our Drake P3 personality models, and they paired us together. And he's like, "Here's the analysis on how we work together." And I was like, "Wow, you're like really serious about working together." And I'm gonna put some more energy into this relationship because my style is like give them some guidance, but not too much. I don't want to be micromanaging. And we had complementary type of connections. There's some points in our personalities where we clash. And I saw that in the report, and I said, I think this is going to be good for me because there's areas where you just see things differently than I do. And you ask so many questions. It's impossible for me not to eventually think differently. And he's really good at probing and asking a lot of questions. So I was hooked.
I always tell them that this is the last question, and that's never the case.
I usually tell them it's the last question of this 60 seconds.
Yeah, it reminds me of Columbo. That's a Columbo moment, yeah. Anyone else think about it?
I remember the day, so Misty joined our team as a very short-term filled position because someone who had experience in that role left, and an agency, she was helping them out, wasn't even full-time with them. She came to join us, and it was probably like 6 weeks was a timeline, and she was supposed to go, and then they called me up to say they have a candidate to come in. And I think I almost got sick. I was like, what do you mean, you're taking Misty away? Like, it was like that moment that I realized we can't do this without her. Even though she didn't have the knowledge, she didn't have all the things, but she had learned so much and was so dedicated to doing the job and fit so well in how we seem to work together. That moment when I thought that they were gonna try and give me someone more experience that was gonna be different, I was like, no, like, no way. And I hadn't even asked her yet if she wanted to stay, I don't think, but it was, it was that eye-opener to me about how much she had impact in her nature and how she worked with us and how she influenced me so much just in how she worked that I just felt this, I didn't want her to go somewhere else and wanted her to be on our team to grow and wanted to see her do everything possible if she wanted to stay there. And then it became her choice, so.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was either you were on vacation or I was on vacation, but either way, when I came to my emails, I got a message from Karen saying that she was just so impressed. Like, it was a very short time that I'd been there, and she was like, I don't have to worry about anything. Everything was in its proper place when I got back, and I could find everything I needed. And I was like, okay, I'm actually doing the job that I was hired to do. So, for me, that felt like I had a home all of a sudden. So.
One moment that really stood out to me was I had a massive to-do list and a looming deadline, and Larry had mentored me to the point to where I had the knowledge to do everything on my to-do list, fortunately, but there was just no way that I was going to cram it in to the time frame that I had, and so he took off some work off of my workload directly and just cranked it out with me, working some late hours to meet the deadline stuff. So super appreciative of moments like that.
But that's one of those times when you develop a relationship, is when you're actually working together. And you're not the boss saying, do it this way. We're two engineers working together on it is a way to build that relationship.
Yeah.
For me, my moment was when Justin offered me a path to leadership. And when we were collaborating on how to develop that, it gave me a different perspective in terms of my journey. Not only within the company, but also with regard to lean as well. But yeah, that was my moment with Justin.
Alex now supervises he has his own direct report, you know? So, and I sat on it, I sat on the mid-year review and had the pleasure of saying very little, which was great because he had a whole agenda lined up. He was very in touch with the employee that he's supervising, making sure that they're having these touch bases. You know, they go together out to lunch, you know, they have some happy hour together. I mean, he sprinkled these things in along with, you know, what are your career goals? How are those doing for the year? I mean, it was so well laid out. And so it was just fantastic to see that personally.
Cool. Well, good. This was a warm-up. Now it's time for you to get involved, and we want to hear from you. We're going to break up into 7 breakouts, and there's a list of questions that I would like for you to discuss and to write down on a flip chart. There's a flip chart in each of the locations, and then we'll bring it back, and then we'll hear what you came up with. Because menteeship is not just the pairs, it's you too. All of you probably have someone that you're mentoring or being mentored by someone, and what you're going to discuss and bring back will be of immense help to all of us. So, is everyone back? If you're not here yet, let me know. All right. Okay, up here. You don't have to come up here, but you know, eyes up here. Okay, around the corner. Hurry! You don't want to miss this. It's good. It's going to be really good. All right. Okay. Now, actually, I want you all, the panelists, just to stay into where you can see, right? And we want the spokesperson from. Oh, Karen says back there. So go. Okay. So we would like for each of you, thank you so much for your effort on this. I overheard a lot of great conversation, and we want to hear some of the key takeaways that you came up with, right? Some of the things you shared. And so we can go from left to right. So the spokesperson for Team 6, if they could, they can come up here and share what your team came up with. Team 6, there we go.
Team 6. So number 1, so think of the best mentor or coach that you've ever had. What did they do that made the biggest difference, right? So we came up with a few items. So 1 was find connection, get to know you as a person, right? That really helps. 2 was finding the way to communicate that worked for both parties, right? That's not always easy to do. And then another one was they encourage and root for you to be successful, right? And then the last one we came up with is standing by the mentee in the times of adversity, right? Not just disappearing if things don't go well. So same thing, think of the best mentor you've ever had. Number 2, what qualities or habits made that relationship memorable? So the ability to provide open feedback, that was one thing that we had. Humility, self-awareness, just finding times to have fun or find connection, and then the person being disciplined and kind, right? So number 3A, so for mentors, what's one thing you could do better for your mentee starting tomorrow? That's a pretty open question. So one we came up with was being an active listener, allowing the mentee to speak more, guide, not dictate. I think Felipe actually mentioned that, but that was something that we reinforced. And then be present even when time is hard to come by, and we all know that time is hard to come by. So make time for that relationship a priority. And then 3B was for mentees, what's one request or feedback you've been holding back? So one is ability to relocate, right? For bigger companies, that's a consideration for people. They may not have that ability or they may want to. So Another is accepting of the person's working style, so their thought processes, excuse me. And then the last thing we came up with is, should I pursue another opportunity, right? So mentors are sometimes in the position where, you know, a mentee might have another opportunity and you've got to be able to give them good feedback. That mentor or that mentee may be afraid to bring that up. So that's what we came up with.
Thank you.
Talk for group 3 here. So we had much shorter things than the paragraphs you guys wrote up here. But so number one, what did they do to make the biggest difference? We talked about availability, creativity, empathy, teachable moments. I think the central theme here is just being someone that's approachable, that you can feel comfortable going up to and asking questions. I think that's the single most important thing for a mentor. Because if you don't feel comfortable asking questions, then you'll never ask those questions and you'll just suffer in silence. You know, looking for teachable moments, this was another big one for me, is that it's especially hard these days with all this working from home, remote work, that we're not talking, you're not hearing these conversations, you're not learning by osmosis as much. And so finding those moments to go, hey, this is a really cool thing, there's a weird problem that came up, I'm gonna bring this to my mentee and let's talk about it, right? Let's share this teachable moment, and looking for those moments can make all the difference. Qualities and habits that made their relationship memorable. I think a lot of times we talk about the similarities between mentors and mentees and how important that is, but I think the different perspectives is something we talked about, that's really where the learning happens. Larry talked about creating an army of mini-me's and how that doesn't work out, right? But Larry, you learned, right, from that experience, certainly. It's the differences between us that I think really enrich us. And again, similar ideas, listening, and watching them get things done, just that learning by osmosis, that learning by shadowing, all those opportunities are what really make that relationship memorable. 3A is really interesting because I happen to have a mentee in group 2, and they wrote, learn to stop talking and listen, and we wrote, we need to shut up. So we're on the same page there. But really that's what it is. We sometimes, you know, myself and my colleague Danny here, we both, I think, fall into the same trap of like, we just start talking and we just keep talking. You think talking more is teaching more, but sometimes it just gets, what you're trying to get across gets lost. And sometimes you need to shut up and say, you know, what are you thinking right now? What are your questions? What questions do you have, right? And understanding what they want. Again, back to Larry's point, you know, you can't create that army of mini-me's. So knowing what do you want? What do you want to learn more about? Maybe I love everything about EMS systems, but maybe you want to learn more about plumbing. And so identifying those interests is really important. We don't really have a whole lot to say on mentees, but I think the biggest thing was explaining the why. That a lot of times as mentors we get lost in the what. This is what you need to do. This is what we do. This is how you do this. But not knowing why, and not knowing that, you know, what's coming. Why are we doing this? What am I getting out of this as a mentor, as a mentee? I think is really important. Anyone else? Group 3 want to add? All right, that's all we got.
Excellent. Thank you. Team 2.
Hello. I am a mentee, so I'm going to do my best to have the perspective of the mentors. I'll just read from our paragraphs here. What did they do that made the biggest difference? We wrote not just direction, but listened and asked questions more. Giving the comfortability to ask questions is big, like having that safe space to be yourself. And then trust was a big one, knowing the mentor well and making them feel like family, because we sometimes spend more time than we do with family together. So that's important to build that type of relationship. And then understanding that we're all human, doing work together, and then open to ideation, having the purpose of getting something out of the relationship. Yeah. Anybody else from our group have anything else to say? Okay. And then 2 was what qualities or habits made the relationship memorable. And the biggest one we had was just listening, having a lot in common, bonding, building camaraderie through the differences, respecting each other, being vulnerable, and being there for you when they are vulnerable. So it kind of just goes hand in hand. And then the next one is, what's one thing you could do better for the mentee starting tomorrow? Being present, not making the mentee feel like a burden, asking for feedback, giving more time. I know that's a hard one. Prioritizing the relationship, asking the mentee how, sort of getting that like feedback of what did you understand from what I said. And then empowering the mentees, advocating for them, understanding what they want to get out of the relationship, progress check, asking them questions like, what are you proud of? And then slowing down and having diversity with topics of conversation. That's nice to be able to relate on things you don't actually like agree with. And then last one was the perspective of the mentees, what you might have as feedback for your mentor. And I think this one is on both sides. We can't read your mind. And then just to learn to stop talking and listen, and then understand how the mentee learns. It's not you, it's me. It was kind of like, I forgot exactly why they
Like, if it's
wrote
not
that.
working out, like, don't be
Yeah.
afraid to say,
Yeah,
I think I need to move it.
yeah.
Right? Like, it's not working out. Yeah, but it was a nice break, like, it's not even.
I was just thinking, it sounds a lot like typical relationship. A lot of the things that we're listing out, it really is just all about like a typical relationship that you would have and what makes it work and what doesn't make it work.
Relationships are hard, guys. Okay, that was it.
Thank you, appreciate it. Numero 1.
I guess.
You got it, Mark?
Yeah, I guess so. I'll try. Our scribe couldn't use one piece of paper, so.
It's
Shame on that person. What did they do to make the biggest difference? I guess you'll see in our first one that we probably focused more on behaviors than we did tasks. So when you see teaching versus giving the answer is, permission possibly to fail, right? Like you can fail doing these things, but please, guide us along the way and let us try to figure out how we figure some of this stuff out ourselves. The other one was listening. So we kind of talked in our group, kind of one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody is the attentiveness and the listening and your full attention to that person, right? So sometimes as a mentor, you might be busy going from meeting to meeting and just sitting there taking that time to actively listen to that other person and what they're saying, we thought was a great gift. Setting the example, just preach what you're going to do, right? Just do what you're going to preach and follow that example and set a good example. Being engaged goes back to listening, and the same with giving time. It all kind of ties together as great behaviors that we want engagement from mentor to mentee. What qualities or habits made that relationship memorable? Going back to the behaviors, just the permission to say no. Sometimes just having that ability to say no to a request instead of saying yes all the time. So having that comfort to say no to a request. is something that I think it was powerful in the group. So being in a comfort and safe space, psychological safety was big with our group. Just being able to have a direct relationship with your mentor or mentee and be able to say something that you know would stay in that space and be safe between the two of you. Be genuine, be caring, feel like you're a person, help you succeed. Those were all kind of the habits that made the relationships memorable. So just, I don't know, I kind of tie that into being human. So I don't know what you guys would say or if there's anything that you would add to that. But for mentors, what's one thing you could do better for your mentee starting tomorrow? Making more time, being available, having trust in one another, allow us to delegate or delegate tasks to others, having that authority to do so, letting us follow through with the plan, and being adaptable. So, for mentees, what's one request or feedback you've been holding back? We just kind of drew the arrow back up to 3B. We like all those things. So refer to 3A. But just kind of in the, hey, it's okay to fail, let me lead, give me the permission to do that, knowing that it's okay to say I don't know, just having that permission and that understanding between the two of you, providing specific examples for feedback. We talked a little bit about that, and some of us require just, like, instead of just getting the generic, like, you're doing good, ground it with something different. Ground it with some type of example, or ground it in a way to we can have a constructive conversation to say, maybe I can do this a little bit better, maybe we can do this a little bit better, but you can take it to one step further. And then, and then the last one was asking for a solution versus support, and that kind of goes back to the behaviors in one, and where we went with that was sometimes when your mentor or mentee doesn't have time, they'll just give you the answer. So there's ways to ask for conversations for solution versus conversations for support. So we kind of structured it around that. So that was it.
It goes back to like Eric's explain the why, right? Like just kind of show where you're coming from instead of just like being like, I have a question. So, yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Sorry, that was bothering me. We were group 5. And let's get this going. So first question, what did they, or think of the best mentor or coach you ever had. What did they do to make the biggest difference? We put their approach when I made mistakes and meaningful opportunities to stretch me. Guys, what did we mean by that? I didn't get that part. Can somebody, like, is that?
So the first one was more about showing empathy
Right.
when I made a mistake and showing me what their expectations were in a very simple way.
And then the
not
second one
just
was
beating me
to-
up over, oh, you didn't do it wrong. Just showing me what I needed to do and so forth.
Okay, and then the second one was just kind of push your brain past where you normally would go? Is that how you
Yeah,
think about it?
presenting more opportunities, career growth, just taking on more responsibility at a younger age, and having that kind of sink or swim mentality, but still having that person there to pull you out of the water right before you drown.
Gotcha. Thank you, Group 5. Number 2, what qualities or habits made that relationship memorable? We put knowledgeable but very humble, personable, approachable, and someone who cares. Number 3A, for mentors, what's one thing you could do better for a mentee starting tomorrow? Our answer was patience, a better understanding of where they are coming from. 3B, mentees, what's one request or feedback you have been holding back? Honesty, like just straight up honesty. Tell me if I'm doing something wrong or not. Like, how do I do this correctly? So asking for honest feedback, constructive criticism, and giving honest feedback to the mentor and having him be able to accept it. Also, I do want to say one cool thing is that Mark, who was just up here, is the guy that hired me, and to see him do this and be on the same page, That's pretty cool. That's how you would want to see a mentor kind of be. So thank you. I don't know where you went. Where'd you go?
Not really, but I will. Got it.
You got it.
Alright.
Let's go, Bolt. We're in the building.
Okay. I'm looking at my misspellings. Okay, think of the best mentor or coach or teacher you've ever had, and what did they do that made the biggest difference? I actually put her name up here. Her name's Robin Monroe. She actually led me into the property management industry before coming here, but she taught me patience. Just slowing down. Her vibe was very calm. It made her very approachable, and she just slowed down with everything that she did. So that's extremely helpful, and I think leads into a lot of these other things. Perspective. I think we were trying to get across just the different views from everybody, and seeing things from our side is very helpful. Listening, just stopping and listening to us when we have questions or trying to explain things. And of course, the biggest point of the evening is trust. Our favorite mentors were very trustworthy, easy to trust. Question 2 was what qualities or habits made that relationship memorable? They let us ask questions, lots of questions over and over, different ways, different verbiage, different everything. Sometimes we don't always know how to ask the question to get the answer we're looking for. So that patience and letting us ask questions is great. They also put themselves in our shoes, I think is very helpful to see, again, going back into perspective, I think is a big positive impact. Pausing, slowing down, and just taking the time with us is important. Allowing us the opportunity to fail, that I think is a big one. It helps build the trust that you're not going to bite our head off if we do something wrong. And the genuine interest in us as people or as a person. 3A for mentors, what was one thing you could do better for the mentees starting tomorrow? We make more time. I think that was the consensus. I think we were mostly mentors in our group, and they agreed that they will give us time, so that'll be great. Let them talk and take the lead. Again, patience, and I think one of my favorites was don't be a gatekeeper, don't hold the information. It's helpful if you're out that we can step in and not look like, we just stuck our foot in our mouth because you had all the information and didn't pass it along. And then empower us to make decisions. And that, I think, goes along with gatekeeping. For the mentees, what's one request or feedback that you've been holding back? For me was start slow, kind of don't be afraid to go back to the ABCs. We think we know, sometimes we don't, and you could help clarify that we don't have it all figured out. So by going back to the beginning sometimes helps us kind of figure things out a little better. Leading back to 3A, don't gatekeep, and give us honest feedback. Don't sugarcoat it, and yeah. I think that's it.
Yes. All right, last group. So I'm noticing a similar theme amongst all of them, so that's great.
Okay, so for the first one, what did they do that made the biggest difference? So some of the areas we talked about are pushing. So basically pushing you to your limits, out of your comfort zone, asking you those very tough questions, just so you are a little bit more, not comfortable. Supporting your goals. So not only in your career, sometimes it's very highly focused on like, let's just focus on your work, your career, everything. But also, do they take genuine interest in your personal goals as well? So combining the two, personal and professional. Short-term and long-term goals. So sometimes, looking at not just, hey, what are we gonna get done, next week, month, couple months from now, but also looking at the long-term. So, years from now. So those are really important as well, just so they show genuine interest. That's the thing that you wanna look for. Asking questions, I think that was a consensus amongst all of them. So asking a lot of open-ended questions, taking real interest in you. So that's important. Okay, and the second one, qualities, habits that make that relationship memorable. Access to a person. I think that was a huge topic, just with everything nowadays, everything being virtual, digital, we don't really take that time and effort to really have access to a person. You would think we would, but truly having access. So whether it's a real conversation, texting, phone calls, whatever that may be, that's something I think that was important for looking for a true mentor. Complementary opposite attributes. So someone that compliments you, I think Felipe was talking about that, with the test, but also having, opposite and kind of different scenarios that you can learn from each other, so different attributes and things you can challenge each other. So even opposites sometimes, having those challenges between the two. Empathy, compassion, so somebody who's actually going to take genuine interest and be there for you in those times of needs, and having a true mentor for that. Mentors let others talk, so that's something, listening, that's a big one. I know that's a big topic, listening, so having others be able to talk, that's important. Access, again, circling back to the second one, that was something that was huge. Asking questions, listening. So, just having an open ear and truly listening and giving feedback was huge. And then for the mentees, honest feedback. So, truly having feedback that's going to be constructive, that's going to help the mentee, that's going to be allowing them to grow, build in their career, personal life, whatever they may need help with. And then phrasing questions differently. So, we all ask different questions. There's a saying, there's never a stupid question, but sometimes, being able to rephrase that in different ways is important. So yeah, ours is really short. Does my team want to add anything? Did I miss?
I think you got it.
Yeah? Okay. Good job. Thanks.
Excellent. Wow, that was rich. And I started keeping notes here, and there was a lot of repeats, but not very many. Each one had something to add. Even when you got to number 7, you would think, oh, they said everything, but they didn't. So really appreciate that. So you had some really good discussions. So if I could ask the panel to come back up here, and we're about to close it out. But I wanted to, man, there was a lot of good stuff.
I took your spot.
Really,
I wanted to see what you would do if I took your spot. Move forward. I'm giving you a break for a minute.
See, this is an example. See, Karen already said she doesn't know if she's the right mentor. Misty, so
You got
she,
Felipe now.
so there you have
Sorry.
Felipe, okay. So just, you all, the panel, heard a lot of the feedback and things, so I was just wondering if anything kind of stood out that really triggered something in you that we haven't discussed so far.
I think the thing that stood out to me is the commonality in what we all want. These are I think base things that we need in the relationship, and it stands out with these comments, And in that way, it's kind of like a training program where for the mentors and the mentees, then the mentees become the mentor, Because again, it's the difference is really kind of that commonality of what was important to us when we were being mentored. And I still feel like I'm on that continuous journey where I'm always learning, right, from everybody. So I feel like a mentee in a lot of ways always, but it's those base things. And so you can kind of rely on those things. Like, this is what was important to me. You know, maybe this is also something that's going to be important to my mentee. But then following up with the phrasing of the questions, because our communication language is very different. My communication language is quite a bit different than Alex's communication language. We're just different. It doesn't mean, you know, he's better or I'm better. It's just we have different ways of doing it. So being able to rephrase those questions, and if it doesn't stick immediately, like, ask it in a different way, you know, and get them to say it a different way, and that might stick. So those were the key things for me.
No, I would agree with what Justin said. I think what I got out of this is that we all want the same things. We all want to do good at our work. We all want to be respected. You know, we want to succeed. So, if you're wondering how to be a good mentor, just ask yourself what you would want somebody in your mentor to be. I think we all want the same things.
So I'm gonna be brutally honest, I think I learned I don't do enough. I'm not doing enough maybe for Misty, but I'm not doing enough as a female in this industry with the number of years I have and the job I have for other women in this industry and mentoring them. And so it was a real eye-opener to me about the things I should be doing more of for everybody who I know and should be offering and making the time and doing all of these things in some way, shape, or form to have a positive impact and influence. Because it's not easy, and in our industry, it's getting better and it's gotten better, but I think we need each other, and so I recognize that I'm not doing enough. So it was an eye-opener for me today.
I was surprised, Jeff, that so many people said time and access to the mentor. That was surprising. I think we often take for granted, like, we're at the job, we're here, we're present. I'm always available, but you're actually not. And I've heard that from my mentee before. I got you, bro. I'll give you one
I think something I'm learning even in this moment is that you're almost never too young or too inexperienced to be a mentor yourself. Like, I'm a mentee, but I can also be a mentor, because you probably learn the most by teaching, and if you don't know, then you're gonna find the answers, and so.
I think the I think the commonality that I noticed right here, which based on my experience, it happens. I think for a mentee, we are looking for a place where you could be comfortable to ask the questions, whether it be silly or not. And we've always promoted that there's no stupid question, there's no silly question. But that's kind of hard to relay, right? Because you don't want to be put on the spot. But that's what I see, and that's what I hear, and that's true. You know, we have the mentors will have to create a safe spot where you could explain yourself, where you could ask the questions, whether it be stupid or not, in order for you to start growing. And giving that space will help the mentee move forward. This is really a good space for me that I could learn. And then you pass it on to the next one.
Yeah, just echoing everything that's already been said. Keep it human, be kind. I think we all look for that in others.
I want to highlight the fact that having a challenge and going through the challenge together, still being able to discuss about the challenge, mentor, mentee, is something rewarding, and as a team effort is something that we can duplicate that or scale that to more people at the same time. Having that opportunity is something that is valuable in terms of learning.
That's good. Some of you are in supervisor-employee relationships, right? How many are in that where your mentee is your direct? Okay, not only, I say good, because it doesn't have to be, right? A lot of times those that I've mentored sought me out from other I wasn't their direct boss, right? So you mentioned about trust, you talked about approachability, and those things are really, really marvelous. What would be your number one piece of advice for those entering into a mentor-mentee relationship? So this is going to be probably our last question, but I'd like to hear from each of you. What would be, just think about this, internalize it. What is your number one piece of advice you would give? We'll start with you.
As I always relate to this statement of give me expectations since the very beginning, so I can work my way into that expectations, like conditions of satisfaction. If I don't know if you ask me for a tech plan of this sequence of activities, I will expect, in this case, Felipe to tell me what will be the amount of trains that I need to pull together, the amount of MVP system, if that's the case, and so on. So I would like that type of expectation so I can make that happen. And then what's going to be the why I'm doing this, what's going to be the expected input for this other process. So if I don't have that clarity, I cannot move forward, because I will be just someone doing something with no reason. I need to understand the why, and this is probably my way of doing things. I need to understand the big scope, and I think that's helpful for everyone in that type of relationship.
Thank you for that. Misty?
I would say commitment. If you're gonna enter into a mentee-mentor scenario, like both sides need to be fully committed, otherwise one side's gonna be frustrated and it's not gonna go anywhere, so.
Jordan, what do you think?
I think it's, really cliche, but communication. I think you can't really over-communicate the learning styles, the amount of involvement that each person wants, et cetera, et cetera. So communicate.
Alex?
I think if you're really driven into developing yourself, I would say don't give up. There's going to be a correct environment for you. In my case, I have it. I've got the right environment. I've got with the lean, I've got the promoted safe environment. Learning a new way, new culture, besides of what I knew, and that would be a good start in terms of a mentor-mentee relationship, and also pair up with the right mentor, the one that you would be comfortable in terms of opening up on your way to developing yourself.
Yeah, if I can add, that was my I have two things. My number one is make sure there's a connection. It's not supposed to be work. It's not supposed to be hard. Mm-hmm. It's not like having someone you work with every day that you have a hard time communicating with. There should be something that you both should feel good about and working together on. And if you don't, they probably don't either, and you're not helping each other. So have that connection where it feels natural and doesn't feel like a struggle because you've connected some way. And second, get all the notes from this and do exactly what everyone says we should do. And so we'll get those out to you, to all of us, so we don't forget these.
I would just say listen twice and talk once. Listen to what the mentee is saying, listen to what they're asking for, and spend more time listening than talking. Would be my advice.
I'm going to say have some fun with it. Don't be too serious, okay? Don't be too rigid, right? Just try to let loose, because what we do is stressful and what we're trying to teach is stressful. There's a lot of hard moments. Just have fun with it, do something silly every once in a while, make a joke, lighten the mood. It's a long journey, we're in it together, so have fun with it.
That's really good. My advice is everything they said, plus I tell my mentees, I might be wrong. It's super rare. But when it happens, let's celebrate it. And we've done that a few times, so we make it real. And if you can approach it that way, that you don't have to be perfect, then you can do all the things that they said, and it'll be a really rewarding relationship for both people.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank our panel pairs for your feedback. I'd like to thank each of you for your great feedback, because these are teachable moments. We can all take something that was discussed and start to implement it tomorrow or tonight. Someone mentioned that this is all about relationships. You can practice at home. So with that, I do want to bring up the plus delta. Well, first, hang on a second. We do have like 2 minutes, though. Is there any burning questions?
I'm about burning, but I have them.
Okay.
So,
Sizzling
It's
questions.
sizzling. I was wondering, so your mentor-mentee relationships, did it like develop organic, or did you guys kind of pick each other? I mean, I think Karen and this.
Yep.
Yeah, yours sounds like it was more organic, and Guillermo pestered Felipe. But
No, ours was not organic. Our company, when they assign people, they do it thoughtfully. You know, so when a project is trying to be assigned, they'll pick a project manager who knows how to do it really well, and a project engineer that it's just over their head, if you follow me. Mm-hmm. So that there's a reason to come together to solve problems and to learn. So, no, I think it's done by our company mostly. Not that you couldn't if you wanted to, but.
Really good. And to add on to that, that's how it first started. But I think once I got that first project experience with Larry, I've been seeking out continuous projects with Larry because they're really enjoyable, both from being with Larry, but also the projects themselves are very nice. So
they're lean projects.
Keeping it, trying to keep it there.
We did a wants and needs assessment. It could have been me or it could have been another principal. And based on the wants and needs assessment, it flipped to me. And to Karen's point, we've discussed in the future it might flip to another principal. But that was basically it. And then we laid out a game plan, and I asked him what he wanted to do, and then got him into it. So, but it was based on that wants and needs.
Good question. Quite good question. Any other burning, sizzling, not so hot questions? Well, with that, please provide your feedback on the plus delta. And let's give all of us a round of applause because your input is very valuable.